Okay, this is session 103 of my game, the Fragmented Empire. Who remembers enough to give a recap?
So we started off last session seeing these giant lizard things chasing after a couple of Pegasi carrying Dragonborn. One of them got torched, and one of the lizards went down to eat it. And then um, Zarius decided to try and interfere to save the Dragonborn. Um, and kind of distracted the it with his cloud form. I think Clave may have helped by sending out a telepathic message to confuse them. So I believe that Dragonborn was able to get away. Um, then we came upon the town outside of the uh what is that, the
Gates of
scorpion
Soleil.
thing gate, yeah. um and then but the the large rock that was supposed to be on top of the gate had been moved down, and there were a number of giants and more of these lizard monsters, as well as people in cages. Um and so the and it looked like the town was being uh subjugated by these individuals. Clave recommended caution. Darius didn't like that idea. He wanted to act immediately. And so Clave and or with Aurelia just kind of stood and observed while Zarius and T-Hole decided to go into the town and try to see more about what's going on. And eventually they took on their normal form, scared a couple of the Dragonborn residents, um, and I think that they were able to learn a few things after being able to calm one of them enough to talk to them. Uh, these giants had come. They had left through the gates of Seoul with a party and then removed the stone to disrupt the magic so that nothing could come back in or out, um, until they returned it. And they were basically sitting in this town, um, taking their food supplies and everything in order to keep themselves well fed. Didn't look like they were really interested in attacking the citizens of the town, more just taking taking provisions when they needed them. T-Hole and Zarius decided that it might be a good idea to try to poison them. Uh, and so they used the wyvern poison and a bunch of the fine wine that T-Hole had purchased earlier, and we're going to share it with the captors. Uh, the captors were kind of confused about it, but they weren't going to pass up good booze. Um, they started drinking it. One of them got sick, and they immediately knew that something was wrong and attacked. T-Hole and Zarius were about to get beset by these giants and these flying lizard creatures. Um, and at that point, Clave decided to intervene. Uh, he dropped from the sky, changing into his normal form, casting fly on himself, and then also um, uh, using his uh, mass suggestion spell to try and turn as many of them as he could. Clay was able to turn all of the giants and a couple of the lizard things to return the stone into its place, and that they needed to go and help out with their other camp. I think also there were a couple of Goliaths with them. Is that right?
That's right. 3.
So a couple of the Goliaths resisted the spell, as well as a couple of these lizard things.
There was only one Goliath that actually came over with the giants.
Okay. And then a large fight ensued, which ultimately ended with T-Hole being devoured by one of these things, and the creature burrowing underground. It then succumbed to the combined efforts of Clave's Phantasmal Killer and Aurelia's Dissonant Whispers, allowing us to fish T-Hole from the ground, recover his body, which with then finally reincarnation was cast, and he came back as a human.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So you are still standing in the desert in the midst of the northeastern end of this crescent-shaped town. It has been, well, probably after about half an hour going back and looking at the timeline, the sun begins to set. So it's still twilight out when the resurrection is done. But you see there is at first just a series of small lights, almost like fireflies, although a bit whiter in their light, that begin to circle around T-Hole's deceased body. They then begin to peel off one by one and circle in the air right next to the body. Eventually, enough of them forming that you essentially can't see through the blinding white light. And then in an instant, they disperse, and a new man is standing there. And Dustin can describe the new man. New Hole.
New Hole. So you see lying before you a man in his birthday suit. He's got tanned skin. He's thin and lanky. So still, old T-Hole or Old Hole was one on the leaner side as well. But he almost looks Nubian in nature, so kind of olive, dark and tan skin. He's got
he's the mummy.
He's bald. He's bald, and kind of got soft is soft looking features. It does have a 6-pack. Did not before he died, but now he does. They say that death can do good things to you.
It takes like 25 pounds off.
He starts to stir, and opening his eyes, they are jet black. It's almost as if staring into the void itself, which Clave wouldn't necessarily have frame of reference for, but Aurelia and Zarius certainly would. His eyelids bat open, and he kind of blinks a few times, and he looks at Aurelia. And when he looks at you, Aurelia, the the galaxies, and you see like kind of stars and flashes of light in his eyes, and they kind of move in your direction, and in a little bit delayed fashion, but you see like a twinkle, an otherworldly twinkle towards you.
I shine a light right in your eye just to try and make it dilate, fucking. Like I could tell you're about to say something. I go, oh, fucking.
I would imagine that because his eyes suck in light, or they would like be the antithesis of that. That if you shown a light in those eyes, that they would just kind of wouldn't have much of an effect.
Kind of like Vanta Black.
Yeah,
Vanta Black eyes.
pretty much. Yeah.
Right. He actually does, except there are occasionally you can see things floating within the darkness of his eyes. But from people's perspective, it really does look almost like his eye sockets are hollowed out because you just see no reflection in them.
So it's like lighting up like the end of my staff and just like back and forth over your eyes.
And he would just kind of like being weak, from being reborn. He would try to just like numb, or like kind of weakly just kind of like knock it away.
And just as this new person emerges from the light, to the northeast, you all see there's a flash of golden light that erupts as you see what looks like a pillar of flame rises upward into the sky, illuminating the bottom edge of the cloud tops that blanket the entire northern desert.
Where's that come from?
Far off in the northeast. You're not even exactly sure how far away it is, but it seems to be illuminating a wide area of the cloud tops in the far distance.
That's not
Interesting.
ominous at all.
Right.
Does T-Hole have this like beard coil on his chin?
You know what he does?
I'm so glad that you do.
Except it's not like neatly tied down because he was
Yeah.
born stark naked.
Yeah,
So it's just like a little puffy bush.
But the potential is there.
Right.
I feel different.
Look different.
As you should.
What? How am I laying on the ground? Did we win?
The ones that we were fighting are dead. As were you.
And from T-Hole's old body, which is still there, you begin to hear a loud thumping. It's sort of increasingly loud thumping, almost like a heartbeat that just gets slower and slower and stops.
Wait,
Does it sound like it's coming from
that
T-Hole's
is that
old
is
body?
that from the jar?
It sounds like it's coming from T-Hole's body, yes.
I don't know if he was close enough to us last time to like hear anything like that.
No, it definitely intensified. It got louder for a second after this new T-Hole emerged, but then it just abruptly ended.
It's cool.
So this is the end of an era. Why is my body over there?
You died.
He tries to like sit up and like look over, and then he runs his hands on his face, and then he puts his hands on his head. He's like, my beautiful hair, it's gone.
T-Hole, this is what you look like now. and Clave would transform to mirror T-Hole's new appearance.
Wang and all.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Especially the Wang.
T-Hole's, I'm not that small.
That's so I did die then. I must have come back in a form that is native, or at least was native to this area one time.
How are you feeling?
Much better.
And
I
I sent a whispered message to Zarius. I don't know if you saw it, Tony.
have been freed.
Nope. I do
I
not see it.
I feel much clearer head.
Oops.
Bef-
Try again.
In my
I don't know
old
why.
body, I felt I was being commanded, being compelled against my own wishes.
Void will set you free, brother T-Hole.
Did you see it that
Is-
time?
Yes.
Is there like a secret handshake or gesture that people who are voidborn like?
We just
I
know.
think, yeah, I think that's up to Aurelia as the first member of the Voidborn Club. She establishes all the secret handshakes.
I try and see if T-Hole is ready to stand.
He'll try, and I think he'd be able to, with a little bit of effort. He'd probably lean on you.
And so yeah, make sure you're stable and says, I have seen this face. This is the face of the first pharaoh. It is carved in every major temple.
It's a good thing I'll be
Yeah.
recognized then.
Right. I mean, it's not carved in like the temples of your religion, but
Right.
the ancient Thultish temples that you can find ruins of around the landscape.
It seems
T-Hole, what did you mean when you said that you feel like you're free, that you're no longer being compelled?
T-Hole like kind of he steadies himself and kind of walks over to his old body, Old Hole. And he gestures and points to the amulet. And he says, that device, that necklace is imbued with a chaotic, malevolent will. I do not suggest that anybody else wears it.
You mean the amulet that we took from the Hydra?
That one. You did not know it, but Old Hole came very close to turning and dispatching one of you during I guess when I died.
Huh. Well, glad to know that you're feeling better then.
Gives great power, but at a cost that is less than friendship.
We should not let others have this.
It would make an encounter or any sort of confrontation most difficult if they did. I believe it's. I mean, I believe it is. Its origins are. It's was made by Vecna or has origins in with Vecna, so any of their brood would not hesitate to use it. So it would be good to take it because people around here certainly will. But don't wear it. Maybe we
Is
can
it
offer it.
safe to even touch it?
Yeah,
Yes.
people had touched it before. It wasn't a problem. I forget. I think Clave identified it, but Teal was definitely touching it without being harmed by it. Well, except maybe mentally.
If we find the Southern Sage, this would be a great tribute because we would no longer have to deal with it, and it would also keep it out of harm's way.
And
That's right.
Darius, you would realize that the Southern Sage would have no interest in this. It's a trinket as far as the sage is concerned. No real historical value.
Right. We should just make sure that our enemies do not get it. Put it in a bag for now. But it is otherwise useless to us.
Yes. The obligatory keep it secret, keep it safe. What T-Hole looks away to the northeast. What is that? Is this some work of the Empire? Is this would T-Hole have any vague recollections of like the Silver Throne having something like an effect like this?
I mean, so you've seen the Empire blow stuff up using the Silver Throne. This is like just a column of fire. So what you saw was really meteor swarm. So this is
Gotcha.
sort of different than that. That is more or less instantaneous when it hits, and it's meteors falling from the sky. This appears to be a column of fire rising up into the sky. It seems different from that. And it's still going. And about that time, it's probably now like fully dark. Kepri would ask, so what do we do with old T-Hole's body? It's not exactly like a dead body because I guess the soul has moved on. Do we bury it? Are there rituals for
Obviously,
that?
carry it with us.
Forever.
Zarius
Mummify
needed a
it,
new
take
body
it
to
forever.
carry.
Yeah.
Clave steps up and says, I can make sure that it is destroyed completely.
How would you
Well.
do such a thing?
I have a spell that I use for such occasions.
What if we were to somehow let our enemies find it?
I believe that it would be okay to destroy this body.
I mean, is it even recognizable as T-Hole's body in the state that it's in?
I mean, it is burned. So someone who was familiar with T-Hole probably could still recognize it. Though maybe not at first glance. They would probably have to study it a bit to realize.
I mean, to Aurelia's point, that it's a good idea. It could give us a bit of an edge if people think T-Hole had died.
The Empire, always the Empire is known for using using the undead. I would hate to think if they reanimated this husk and then were using it in their forces, not necessarily as in any combat means, but in a ideological or political way.
I mean, that's another good point, because who knows what ties you may have to this, whether spiritual, magical, or otherwise.
I would feel more comfortable with destroying this husk. It served its purpose.
They need not know that he is moved to a new body. Because those who would care to see him killed would know of his capabilities. Best to destroy this so that they are surprised by the new one.
Okay. Clay will begin ritually casting Destroy Corpse.
Zarius looks away.
I didn't know that was a
Yeah.
that was a spell. I was like, wow, that's a very specific.
That's a very specific thing.
Yeah. It's well, Clave has a history. So
I just thought you were gonna, like, I don't know, like do like a cremation of sorts or something, like, but
Fire.
that works too.
So how does New Hole look? I mean, he's mechanically, is he at like 1 HP or something?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What does the reincarnate spell say about that? So I assume T-Hole gathers the belongings from the body before it's destroyed.
Yeah.
Oh shit, I needed that.
So the ritual, it appears like Clave is kind of drawing in, like he pulled at the shadow of the corpse and is just kind of pulling at a thread, just unweaving the shadow and drawing it into himself. And as he does that, the corpse begins to decompose very rapidly until it's nothing more than dust.
Zarius can't look.
So by the time you've gathered and re-equipped all of the belongings from the old body, and as the body crumbles to dust, about half an hour has passed after the resurrection of T-Hole. And from the northeast, you are all hit with an intense blast of wind and hear a boom and crackling washes over you.
Doesn't say how many HP they come back with.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that.
I guess
I
'cause it's
mean,
a whole new body, it might just
right,
be equal health.
I think you're at full health is the implication of that.
Okay.
Because if not, I was gonna do something, or at least we were gonna do, I didn't want, like, hey, it's 1 HP, move forward. Okay.
Is this like the wind strong enough to knock us down? Or
No, it's not nearly that strong, but it does kick up quite a bit of sand. So momentarily you can't look in that direction. And it's surprising because other than like the sand blowing up against you, there's no storm in the sky that seems like it would actively push the sand this way.
Clave looks up at it and says, maybe it's a volcano, but I've never heard of one being this powerful. I mean, I guess there have been eruptions that have been heard for miles away. It still seems awfully far.
I mean, Clave could make me an investigation check. I guess anybody who is proficient in investigation could make an investigation check. Yeah, you would realize, I mean, given that the sound hit you at the same time, this, assuming that the pillar of fire is the likely source of the sound, it's probably, 200 to 300 miles away.
Okay. So that's quite far.
Yep.
Oh, we lost Tony.
Do we have a sense, or would we like, if Clave shares that information, I guess, would we have a sense of like, we don't have the world map, so otherwise I would look, but like where 200 or 300 miles northeast lands gets us. I guess we could find that out.
Right. So
Interesting.
It's like Sakara ish.
Yeah, it's a little more north than it is east, but it could be, it's sort of in the general direction of the tomb of Karfet.
Okay. The tough
so,
nut oasis.
right, somewhere between like Karfet and Thebes ish.
Were we too late? Did we miss the battle, or did they launch an attack before we were ready?
So far as you know, there's still plenty of time. Because you've been, moving along using your magical cloud forms. They probably haven't even reached the oasis yet. And they weren't really planning on leaking the rumor that the eggs were at the oasis until they got there and were ready.
Clave, though, always assumes the worst, and so he would wonder, oh, maybe they found out and they destroyed the hatchery before we could do anything about it. Hopefully not, but either way, that explosion does not bode well.
No.
Pepri, staring at the pillar of fire, says, if they found out and that's how they destroyed the hatchery, what were we going to do to stop that?
I do not believe that they would destroy the hatchery. It would make more sense for them to control it. Take control over the next generation.
That tracks.
By the way, the Krakatoa eruption was able to be heard from 3,000 miles away. So a volcano is probably a good bet.
Maybe they'll be distracted.
Whether existing or magically created.
I was gonna say, are there any known volcanoes in this area? I would know. I think.
Yes, and there are, but they're all to the south.
Wrong direction. There are no volcanoes over there.
Are you sure? Because it looks like a volcanic eruption.
We must find the southern sage. Maybe they'll be distracted by it.
We should figure out our next plan of action.
What do you mean figure it out? We go through the gates of Sumul.
Then we do it. I just look to T-Hole. He seems healthy.
Teal is he's putting his clothes on and he picks up you see him kind of by the time you see it, when you look over, he is holding in his hands the urn of Anubis. And he's just kind of appears lost in thought as he's staring at it.
I do a basic cure wounds on myself.
So at this point, the temperature is because of the cloud cover, the desert was already a little bit cool, but now it's starting to get downright cold as night begins to set in.
Do we dare try to rest, or should we just move forward?
I don't know what it would be like, what the temperature would be like on the other side of those gates. But this will become dangerously cold unless we can cover up.
Yeah, you would expect. I mean, normally it just gets a little bit cool. It probably will get like not life-threateningly cold, but it would be more comfortable to take shelter than to try to rest outside.
They don't know
Well,
that.
I think wasn't I able to cast Mirage Arcane last session?
I don't recall that you did. Maybe I'm misremembering. Did you? There was talk of it to like manipulate the sand and try to get the lintel back up on top of the gate.
Right.
I think that's how we dug out T-hole, isn't it?
That might be.
Yeah, I think
That makes sense.
we were talking about like earth moving and using
Yes,
the spell as like an earth mover.
right. Because it's easy to clear sand out. I don't know if that's, just sort of creating a pit in the area. So yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, never mind. Basically, Clave is God in a 1 mile radius.
Yeah, so if we need to take the night to rest, we can do so safely here. I mean, I don't.
Your windwalk would also have basically expired by this point.
It might be best. My own spell energy is mostly depleted.
I can take first watch and watch over if we rest for the night, maybe even second. I've got things to ponder.
Well, I mean, if people really want to take watch, they can, but I can create a structure that will be pretty well defended.
About a tiny hut.
We have a mansion.
And if you want to put your tiny hut in a mansion, That can be arranged as well.
That's fine. Uh, I don't remember. Did oh yeah, we tried we haven't moved out of town, so we haven't gone back to the gates yet. But we hope that the Giants and the Giants and the leader, can't remember their name, put the stone back on top of the gates of Sewell to complete it so we could walk through.
Right, that's what they were ordered to do.
Yeah, so we have yet to, hopefully we get there and we're able to go through.
Yeah, so Clave would create a structure that is overall pretty basic compared to some of the things that he's created before. But he will create several concentric spheres of a clear, thick, hard substance. So that if anything is seen out beyond that, then it will at least take whoever time to get through.
Okay. So Teal's taking watches. Is anybody else taking watch or just Teal?
And Clave is actually going to walk off into his own room. And kind of leave.
I just pictured all the walls being clear. So Clave just walks into like an invisible room and closes an invisible door.
and then he causes that one room to become opaque.
Oh, like the bathrooms in Japan.
Yes.
But I imagine Clave, he does that. He slams the door closed and he starts yelling, but we can't hear it from the outside. It's just like silent, silent anger.
So, but the night passes and nothing attempts to breach these spheres. I guess how big were the spheres? Like what's the outer perimeter of it? I'm just wondering like whether or not you've imprisoned townsfolk who are like trapped between layers of the spheres.
I would set it up such that it was outside of the town so that it wouldn't impact any of those structures. So, but probably like diameter of like a football field. So like 300 feet.
Yeah, nothing noticeable attempts to breach the walls or burrow under them, so far as you know. That's the next day. Everyone's long rested. I don't know if anybody wanted to do
exhaustion.
Don't know if anybody wanted to do anything during that rest period.
Oh, it was dark. Zarius was out.
Okay. So next day's upon you.
Get back 4 charges of my wand of fireballs. Nice. And let's see if I'm gonna keep the same spells. Otherwise, Clave emerges from his room and just says, "All right, I'm ready."
let's do this.
What's this? Tell me what you're doing.
I don't know.
This. You know, the thing.
Yeah, Julie, do that thing.
Actually, I guess I should check if do we wish to have the cloud form available?
What do you mean?
Do we want to cast it now or wait till we
Why
are
would we wait?
inside?
I think we should have it available so that if we need to move fast, we can.
It's not fast to turn into the form. But very well. Now, cast the wind walk on us so we can have it ready for us.
So that's cast.
I mean, we could, if the thing is up, we could do with the entry process in cloud form, presumably. Unless the instructions very specifically said to walk.
The instructions were not that specific, but whoever wrote the instruction, because it's just a map and it just shows like a path.
Right.
You can pretty much guarantee whoever wrote the map wasn't thinking, but what about people in windwalk form?
Yeah, what about the flyers?
It's a little asterisk with like a footnote.
Does not apply to flyers.
So are you walking back to the gate or what?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'd walk and walk to the gate, and kind of check it out before committing to go inside.
So making your way across the sand, you see the lintel is back on top. The gate appears to be intact once again. The empty cages are still there. The cages that had creatures in them, one cage had some sort of demon inside, and the other cage was a cage full of dragonborn. Those seem to be gone. Clearly, there was some effort to lift those up on the shoulders of giants and carry those off, so that the primary thing you see from the old camp is just the two bodies of dead poison dragonborn, bottles of poison wine, and the empty cages.
Trying to remember the instructions for how to do the thing, or the bit of instructions we had.
Or entering, was there like a ritual to enter?
Yeah, we had to like circle around
Oh
in
yeah, that's right.
in a clockwise fashion if you were to be looking from above.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know why it's not coming up on.
So yeah, the map
Oh.
itself was light on details. You did speak to a guy who did the translation of the map for you, and who sort of told you what two spots on the overall map that the instructions were referencing for how you have to travel to get to the southern stage. All he really said was that you should have a certain respectable distance between you and the gate, and that it probably was important that you actually do follow the circular path around the gate before going through it. He didn't really go into what his sources were on that, but he seemed pretty clear on it.
Do we notice a certain, so I guess T-hole would start looking around to see if there's if there is like a circular path or some path that circumvents the gates.
Everybody roll me an investigation check.
I'm a little curious actually as to this map that we have, as far as I can tell, doesn't have a north or south marker on it. What if we end up like walking through the wrong side?
It does say steps northeast. Pace 40,000 steps northeast.
Okay, oh yeah, all right.
So
1,000 king steps northeast. Okay, maybe. All right, maybe.
I
Clave,
have a sense that this is where my keen mind is gonna come in handy to keep track of all these steps.
right, well, so what you learn from the researcher is that king steps is a distance, but it's not necessarily actual steps. It's like naming feet. And so that's why he named, both little pips are marked on the map. Like there's one here is the first direction you have to go. Essentially, he thought in a straight line because it seems to say just to go in a straight line. And then the second one, if I move this thing, was here right at the base of the mountains. So it's essentially two line segments he thinks you're supposed to go in, though, he doesn't necessarily know what happens when you go through the gate. So it's not necessarily about counting steps, but that still might help in terms of figuring out your distance. But he kind of imagined that there must be some sort of marker, like there must be something special about these locations where you will see something. But he wasn't really talking from experience there.
gotcha.
But Clave realizes pretty quickly when T-hole starts looking for his path that the town does seem pretty ancient, and it's laid out in this semicircular crescent as if it's keeping a very respectful distance from the monument. So it may be respecting some sort of magical circle, some sort of sacred distance between where where the gate is and where the townsfolk actually felt comfortable building their houses.
Okay.
Seems like a good starting point.
So where do you want to, I assume you will circle around the gate. Where do you want to start this circle?
I mean, it looks like, according to the map that Zarius is showing us, it looks like there's like a start path that we just kind of follow it and then follow it clockwise and then go through. So he would be thinking to start on like the tail end of that.
Okay. So you move essentially a little bit southeast from the gate.
Yep.
And you march around it in a circle. It's a fairly wide circle, so it takes a bit of time for you to walk. As you're walking, you do begin to see not so much the gate itself, which is just made of stone, but the area in between the stones begins to get increasingly opaque as you look at it from a distance. I don't know if I don't think anybody has, enough it's still a distance out, so it's a little hard to notice, especially like when you're on the sides of it. But when you're looking through the pillars of the gate dead on, you can definitely see that it seems as if some sort of opaque substance is forming there. When you completely circle around it and begin to approach the gate from the south again, you do see that it is just a sort of off-white, almost eggshell white. And when you get very close to it, you realize it looks almost like a mist has formed, but it's an incredibly thick, dense mist, almost like you're staring at like a wall of cotton, although you see it occasionally shift in its form.
The way is before us.
I'll reach an arm through.
You don't really feel anything. It doesn't feel like you're touching anything when you pass your arm through.
And then I'll slowly step in.
I guess I should also add, you feel like your arm is going a bit numb when it passes through the surface.
Okay. Okay, then I won't step through right away. I'll pull my arm back out just to see if there's any color change or anything like that.
Nope, seems fine. Not even a tingling when you pull your arm back out.
Here we go. I'll just step through.
You and Kepri go through. Anybody else? I mean, you notice as he steps through, given his armor and everything else, there is utterly all the sound that he normally makes as he moves just completely ceases the moment he crosses the threshold. You hear nothing.
All right,
All
so
right.
what do you guys want to do now?
Finally gotten rid of him.
Clave braces himself and goes in.
T-Hole will follow. And before he does, with it's just T-Hole and Aurelia, he would turn to Aurelia and he would say, I think this might be my final form.
That would make sense.
The heart, it stopped.
You have the void now. You don't need a heart.
Or somehow I've come to the final or that, or I'm close to fulfilling whatever I set out to do when I first entombed my heart. Either way, this might be it for me.
Well, onward then.
I
Ooh,
really
it's like-
hope that the time doesn't move differently there, and it's like me and Zarius are waiting hours for T-Hole and Aurelia. The worst combination of people to be paired up together. At least in Clave's mind.
Every minute here is 1,000 years back on Earth.
I just like that Teal has this conversation and really is like, that's rough, buddy.
Well, this is, for her, this is like his perfect form. So what's the big deal?
So Teal goes through. Is Aurelia going through?
Yeah. I mean, 2 out of 4 is Void Reborn. We got 2 more to go.
So as each of you passes through the threshold, Well, for most of you, you've experienced something similar before. For Clave, this is completely new. As passing through the threshold almost immediately, it's as if you feel your bodies dissolve. Your mind is there, but you can't feel your extremities or feel your body in any sense. You feel almost as if you're completely incorporeal at this point. You do have a vague sense of one another, and you it's as if you can see, but you realize you're not really seeing with your eyes. You're more just sort of experiencing as a spirit the world around you, which seems mostly sort of gray and bland, except that I mean, you can see sort of gray and also seemingly illusory rolls of sand, dunes. You can see the landscape around you, although your field of vision is limited probably to no more than 50 to 100 feet, as what appear to be shadows and clouds move at the edges of your perception. So it is almost just a dim reflection of the world you left, although the stone of the gates does appear to be solid and real, and very much tangible right behind you. And you could see what looks to now be a brightly lit gateway in between the pillars of the gate itself. You also do have a dim sense of the other people being around you. You don't see them physically, but you can sort of sense them being in proximity to you. The longer you're there, you will also see occasional ripples of almost rainbow-like colors that scatter through the clouds in random directions, going any which way.
I'll try and say something. I just like,
Right. So you have no lips to move, but you do sense that, the message you're trying to project is going out, and the rest of you can hear the message that Zarius is attempting to say, which is, I assume, something along the lines of testing.
yeah, something like that. Checking the mic. 1, 2. Checking the mic.
Testes. One,
One,
two,
2,
three.
3.
I can't hear myself on the monitors.
So three of you have experienced this before when you went into the portal that eventually carried you to Malakar's fortress. And you were just sliding through the void for what seemed like months on end. But Clave wasn't there for that.
Very strange for him. Although he's taking it in kind of almost from a scholarly academic sense, just kind of noting everything and trying to explore the range of, like, if he can move at all, even disembodied, or and also how his telepathy works compared to trying to speak.
So you don't notice any difference between speech and telepathy where you are now, except that you're, to the extent you're trying to use your telepathy, everyone around you can hear it. You don't have to focus on one person at a time.
Okay. Is this it? Are we here?
This seems to be.
Now we must confirm the direction we must move.
But how do we move without bodies? How do we know a direction if we're not really anywhere? How do we orient ourselves?
We could see the gates.
Yes. And like I said, you can see what appear to be kind of dim reflections of the world you left behind. In fact, the longer you spend in this dimension, you realize that you also occasionally see what you imagine to be spirits. Mostly it's on the outskirts of your perception. You could investigate further and go and talk to them, but you do see forms that seem roughly humanoid, but incorporeal.
Clave would speak up and say, I recommend against interacting with them. From my understanding and speaking with a friend, these spirits are not necessarily benefit good.
If they were, they would have passed on.
Not that kind, they're not those kinds of spirits. Not like the souls of others. These are entities.
If you say so.
Fine. I do what you want. I don't care. I've made my warning.
Yeah, and the more you experiment, including thinking about how you move, you realize that by focusing your will, you can move.
Kind of like
Essentially, you
when
just
we were in that black space by the Eaters of Dust.
right.
When we move, do we leave behind a residue?
As you move, you realize that there is a very faint trail between you and the gate that doesn't seem to dissipate. It looks like a little brightly lit wisp of cloud, but you do seem to be leaving a trail. However, you can only see your particular trail. You don't notice anyone else's.
I appear to. Does anyone else see that there's we're leaving behind some marks, some trail, some residue?
Perhaps more like a tether.
Yeah, and you all notice something similar, that it seems as if there is a path that is being illuminated between you and the gateway.
Can we start like at least I'll start trying to estimate roughly where we need to be moving next in, relation to the gate.
Yeah, it was like
So-
100 king strides, right?
In a certain direction, yeah.
Yeah, it was like 100 king strides north.
Which means like listing slightly to the left.
Yes.
20,000 paces.
20,000.
20,000
yeah.
king strides. So we're looking for a
I
scorpion.
was hoping you'd be like, okay, well, we're going to go 100 steps this way, and then we turn. We basically followed the map.
We pretty much did.
So it looks like we're looking for a scorpion. So I would maybe we just start walking north until we see something that might look like a scorpion.
Get like a little bit of sleep. She's been in there for like an hour.
That's good.
So, I mean, yeah, you do have a specific map marker that you were given, and it's not exactly due north. This is where he said that it's a specific king that was the original reference to king strides, and so there's a little bit of a variance from true north. And there's a little pip on the overland map that shows where the guy indicated. So you absolutely, well, there she is.
Yeah.
Aw.
Swimming in the rainbow.
That's not a real baby. That's a toy.
Yeah.
I've seen realistic toys do some shit like that.
All I need to do is pull the Bradley Cooper.
Yeah. Look at
What's
him.
that? I don't get
He
that
dropped his
reference.
Oh,
little wings.
So he was in a movie called Sniper, I think, and they gave him a fake baby to hold that was like very obviously fake, and he did his best to try and make it look real by taking the fake arm and just using his finger to move it to make it look like the doll was moving.
Mhm.
He didn't really succeed there.
So who actually wants to, who basically, one of you can take the lead on this by making survival checks to see if you can keep on course, and somebody can help so you can do it with advantage.
Well, I get a +10.
Yeah, I think Zarius should do that because if you have a +10, that beats my +4 handedly.
Yeah.
All right. Take an advantage.
I guess I could help since I got the keen mind and I can kind of keep track of distance.
Yeah.
So,
Rolling.
Thanks.
So you can start walking. You do, as you're moving, you see occasionally, not on your path exactly, but sort of adjacent to or off to the sides, sometimes above and sometimes below you, as you realize that the landscape itself is sort of translucent, and that if you really wanted to, you feel as if you're moving along the surface of the ground, but you're not necessarily bound to do just that. You see these little, almost like islands of reality that seem a little more corporeal than what you're walking on. These don't appear to be at all similar to the desert landscape you see around you, and you can see them at a much greater distance than the 50 to 100 feet or so you can see in your immediate surroundings. Some of them get as close as maybe a couple 100 feet away from the path you're going, but none of them are directly in the line you're moving along. So I assume you ignore them, although you're free to investigate if you want.
Clave ignores him.
Yeah, T-Hole would stay the course.
Yeah.
There's a time to not go off course. It'd be here.
So you find that you are not getting tired, even though you're probably marching at no faster a pace than you would normally walk. You're supposed to cover about 45 miles to get to the first marker. You are essentially walking for a good 15 hours or so, all without getting at all hungry or thirsty or fatigued in any sense. Ahead of you, you see an enormous, it is essentially a globe that appears to be surrounded in crystal. Rainbow colors are shooting out from every facet of this giant crystal ahead of you, and it is dead on your path. And it is probably surrounding the marker you're supposed to move towards.
So this crystal is shooting out all over the place, and it's kind of it's not drawing us, but it's like the main thing we see, and we're walking towards it.
Right. The walls of the crystal itself are smooth, but the light from inside is refracting as it passes through the walls and filling the space around you with this blast of rainbow colors.
Is it like
It is.
So if it's rainbow, it's like sticking out against this black gray kind of everything else around us. So or are those colors muted too?
No, it is definitely sticking out. I mean, you have seen
Okay.
occasional lines of color that pass through the clouds, including rainbow lines of color that pass through the clouds. And you realize that it is not 100% clear whether or not the light is coming from inside the crystal and then out, or if all of these random lines of color are somehow sort of converging on this crystal and illuminating it. But it is, once you get closer and closer to it, it starts out just as sort of a spot of shifting colors. Eventually, by the time you're much closer to it, you realize it is probably, from your perspective, to the extent like relative to the desert around you, probably half a mile in diameter.
Now the real question is this the thing and then we just turn? Do we have to interact with this at all?
Well, I mean, you're still not quite all the way to the marker, and it's in front of you. So it is up to you. You don't necessarily know, is this the marker or is the marker on the other side of this, or is it inside of this? You also don't know how long the crystal is. You know it's probably half a mile from side to side.
T-Hole's gonna walk up to the crystal and try to touch it and see if he can touch it and see if he can push through it.
Yeah, it's as if you can't even feel the surface of the crystal. Your hand immediately passes through it.
Might be just an illusion.
So your hand just passed through it?
Yeah.
I
One
mean,
way
to
to
the
tell.
Does,
extent you,
does Clave
to the extent
think
you
it's
have a
an
hand.
illusion?
That's true. Let the illusionist look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, probably a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, you're not exactly sure what it is. It's probably not a traditional illusion like created by a spell. It's got some sort of reality to it, but then again, so does your Mirage Arcane.
Mm-hmm. So Clay would say, I don't think it's an illusion. I think it's just a quality of this place. No more than sunlight is an illusion.
I'll see if I can look through it.
The light coming from inside it is too intense for you to see what's beyond the walls of the crystal.
Even if I pass through it.
I mean, you could pass through it and see what happens then.
I mean, that's why I kind of was like peek my head through.
Oh, your head doesn't emerge through the wall of the crystal. You just see light filling your. Well, you really don't have a head is part of the problem, but or a hand really. You know, you're just sort of probing it with pieces of your spirit, and you realize since you're non-corporeal, passing through it's not a physical barrier that would prevent you from doing that. But you don't notice anything other than the brightness and the color that's filling your perception.
I think we should just pass through. I think we stand to lose more if we try to circumvent this than if we just go through it. Seems fine. What's the worst that could happen?
You really want to know?
Um, do you want to do the honors or shall I?
You know what they say in ancient thought? YOLO. Goes through.
Yes, of course.
And the moment T-Hole goes through, you no longer sense that T-Hole is nearby you. Like whatever mental connection there is for between your spirit and his spirit seems to be severed when he passes through the wall of this crystal.
Now's our chance.
I just got through.
Aurelia and Clave going in.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. for it.
Clave will wait till everybody else goes in and then just shake his head. And then take a deep breath and walk through.
And that wraps up our campaign. Everyone died now. You all find yourselves, once again, you're in your physical bodies. You feel weird, almost numb. But you find yourself standing in a field of sand, very much like the desert, although the rainbow coloration of everything in here is extremely intense. Ahead of you, you see two giant scorpions, and then on the far side of the scorpions, you see an oasis. In the distance, several hundred yards away, you see what look to be enormous living scorpions that appear to be gathered around the waters of the oasis. Nearby you, kneeling in prayer in front of one of the stone scorpions, you see what looks to be fairly young, probably attractive, although you only see her from the back, human woman, humanish woman. Yeah, it could be like, an elf or something else, but she roughly appears to be human. You no longer see the walls of the crystal. You do, however, see just rainbow coloration at every distance in every direction that you look, including immediately behind you. But it appears to be just like a field of sand, a desert that extends out, as far as the eye can see into a rainbow colored sky.
Well, there's the scorpions.
Telepathically, Clave will once again say, I really think we should avoid interacting with anybody.
Just gotta find our way through.
We were supposed to take 10,000 or 20,000 king strides towards the scorpions, or to the scorpions, and then turn. Perhaps if we walk out away from the scorpions and head and we could find the path and circumvent getting closer, effectively cutting a line. I just don't know if the laws of this place would drop us off if we stray from the path, or if we.
From what I've heard, we need to stay on the path. Any deviation, and we could be lost forever in this place.
Then onwards.
So continuing to move in the direction, assuming like north, south, and all that lines up the same way where you are now, that would take you towards the giant stone scorpion statues in the oasis, and closer to this kneeling figure. The scorpions in the water seem to be well beyond her, probably, another 100 feet, 200 feet beyond her. But basically you'd be walking towards these stone statues, including the numerous living scorpions that appear to be protecting the water source. That said, looking south, you just see an expanse of desert reflecting the rainbow light of the sky above it. It doesn't look like you could step out of this crystal sphere you entered if you wanted to. Though perhaps if you moved a great distance south, you'd find the exit again.
You said there was two like big scorpion things or whatever, right?
Right.
Perhaps if we just pass between the two scorpions, it will have been enough.
That will take you right past where this woman's kneeling. As she almost seems like she's in prayer in front of one of the scorpion statues.
Seems like this was implanted here on purpose. We should. I agree. We should try not to engage with anything, but that does not mean that we should make angry anything that is here either. So we should be cautious, but also,
Respectful.
yes.
This is also reminding me of my research in the path often, but not always, leads to an encounter with the Scorpion Queen. And it's supposed to be a pocket dimension broken off from the astral plane. From the descriptions of the astral plane that I've read, this seems to line up. So we may need to bargain with this Scorpion Queen in order to pass through.
And as you have this conversation, anybody who's looking at the kneeling figure of the woman sees that she seemingly just turns to sand and blows away. So she's not there anymore.
Let us start moving in that direction then.
So continuing moving forward, you eventually begin to step on what appear to be like stones basically. Like there was a stone walkway here once upon a time. You realize that in front of the oasis, hidden behind the scorpion statues, are what appear to be ruins of a temple. Maybe it once had a roof, maybe it didn't, but you do see pillars of stone that rise up, essentially flanked on all sides by the crescent-shaped pools of water that the scorpions seem to be guarding. The desert itself appears to be almost to your left-hand side, as if it's bathed in morning light, and then to your right, as if it's bathed in twilight. One side dark, one side light. You make your way up into the ruins. The scorpions in the distance don't seem to be paying you any attention, but you're still pretty far out from them, like more than 100 feet.
Certainly don't want to go towards those things.
This place is bizarre. But I kind of like it.
You know,
Uh,
we are in, if I'm correct, we are in Scorpion Queen's realm. And it may be that this is not something we can traverse without bargaining with the Scorpion Queen and asking for her blessing to pass through this space to go on to the next.
Okay. Where was she kneeling at again?
She would have been around here.
I'll go up in that direction slowly, but roughly where she was.
There's 2 claves down here.
What?
Oh yeah, there's one up here.
Yeah, there's yeah, 2 of those.
So you make your way up there. You're essentially standing between the claws of this enormous scorpion statue. Capri, who keeps a safe distance, telepathically says, "Careful, it doesn't come to life."
It's like, I know. Um, yeah, I don't know. So wherever she was kneeling, I don't imagine there's some type of altar or anything.
Nope. It just appears as though it's just sand.
Okay. Then I will get back.
I think we should proceed into this structure.
Yes.
Yeah, Teal will follow.
As you move up, all of you begin to sense that there are eyes upon you, but the sense you get is almost as if you're being stared at by a crowd. You don't see anyone, but you do feel like there is a multitude that is watching every step you take.
Every move we make.
Yes.
Can we? Yeah, we can't tell where the eyes are coming from.
It just feels like it's all around you. I mean, it especially feels like you're being watched from behind. And your body still has this strange, numb feeling to it, almost like it's not your body, like you're an imposter or inhabiting an imposter's body.
Are we going to? Do we see? Teal's gonna look behind to see if there's any kind of that residue.
You don't see it.
Okay. So yeah, I guess we'll go to the dais. It seems to be the place to check out.
Still maintaining an eye on these fucking scorpions here.
I mean, they skitter about. They're just not focused on you. So they are in more or less constant motion. I mean, they don't, for the most part, they don't step more than a leg or two into the water. Occasionally they do, step into the water itself, but not often. Their motions appear to be sort of random and very much like any other normal insect.
Anything?
So yeah, guess we get onto the dais, or T-hole will get onto the dais and just start like looking around. If the scorpions aren't hostile, like he's not gonna appear to be hostile or attempt to interact with them. But
So
still,
the three scorpions ahead of you seem to shift and look in your direction and then dissolve into sand. But you see the sand reforms on the far side of you to the south. But they still don't appear to be attacking. They are, however, they have stopped moving and they are facing you.
Just the three.
Just those three. You notice that the others on the far side of the waters do appear to be, they're moving a little less randomly, and they appear as though they may be slowly getting closer.
Anything special about these columns?
No, they appear to be made of sandstone.
Teal still looking around and seeing these scorpions closing in, and says, if we wish to, perhaps it would be wise to call on the Scorpion Queen and see if we can pass unmolested.
You're the pharaoh.
Scorpion Queen, we wish to pass freely.
Next to T-hole, you see the sand begins to swirl, and a spirit forms. The spirit appears to be an incredibly rotted human being. And he looks at T-hole and says, "Do you seek an audience with the queen?"
We wish to pass through
Peacefully.
peacefully.
Only the queen can grant the right for anyone to leave her domain. She does not often let travelers leave. What do you offer?
They got an amulet.
What does your queen prize above all else?
Above all else, she prizes power.
Hardly surprising. What does power mean to her in a place such as this?
Power means the ability to shape reality to her will.
Has she not already achieved that? As he kind of like gestures around.
This is her domain and it answers to her will, but it is a small domain.
So she would wish to grow it.
I believe she would. However, I don't know that she would ask you for her heart's every desire in order to negotiate a peaceful passing through her domain. You merely asked about what she desires most. She might be happy if one of you simply remains as a companion, as I once did when I was alive.
I don't know why, but I just imagine like T-hole, Zarius, and Aurelia just like all looking to Clave.
I don't, we are all needed for our journey forward. but perhaps we can trade for something, for another gift or another favor.
Decide on what you would offer. I
Does your-
must go.
Does your queen care for items of power?
And as he says that he must go and you begin to ask your question, the sand swirls around him again, and you hear he lets out something that sounds like a moan of pain as his form dissipates into the air.
Probably should have confirmed how to ask for her presence.
He's probably here, watching.
She most certainly is, either from somewhere or through the eyes of one of her servants.
Then we must decide.
I could certainly, and maybe, I wouldn't be opposed to parting with some items, but
The only thing that we have that is of any value, we already have committed to the Southern Sage.
the only thing that we could offer would be a favor. But that would be a last resort, really.
Why? Why would that be the last resort?
Because who knows I don't know what it would, I don't know what sort of activities would be required to expand her kingdom, and most certainly
She's-
she would ask for something that would result in more power on her behalf.
Or, just because that's what this servant said that she craves, doesn't mean that's what she would ask of us. Besides, you don't really have many other options. If favor is what she would ask of us, then it seems like the easiest, quickest route out of here.
A favor from us is we have all gathered some modicum of power, so a favor from us is substantial.
Does anybody notice the
Mhm.
scorpions
Yes, I do.
closing in?
Yes, I think we have to act somewhat quickly with our demand, or to get our audience.
Shall we offer the favor?
No. Unless you have any better ideas. He looks around, looks to Aurelia.
I don't have anything else to offer.
Scorpion Queen, we wish an audience. In exchange for free passage, we offer a favor of your choosing.
And terms and limitations apply.
Asterisk.
So
Not available.
in a flash, you see, you assume the same human woman you saw before from behind appears in front of you. And what is it that you offer exactly?
We will do something that you would ask of us. What
And how do I know you would do it when I asked?
Valid concern.
You have already told my servant that one of you remaining here is not a favor that you would grant me. What if I were to ask for something that was even more troubling for you?
What would be more troubling? Try us. You'd be surprised.
Well, you've come to me with the offer of a favor. I have given it no thought what favor I might ask of you. I didn't even know you were going to arrive. What with all of the trouble going on in your world, I'm surprised you would make the trek here at this time.
Well, it's not you that we came to see. It's just that the path that we've taken led us here. This is a stepping stone to where we're going.
So
We
very
seek counsel
likely.
with the sage.
Not that we don't mind being here. It's
You got running water.
Many have come to see the sage before. Usually they pass by my domain and I don't interact with them. But you are particularly interesting.
I knew we could just fucking walk around it, goddammit.
we get that a lot.
What makes us stand out from others who have passed through your domain?
Well, you are the same spirit as the original Pharaoh of Thoth. You brought death to countless millions if you add up all of the deaths across many millennia of time. Zarius is one of the last remaining priests of his people, a potential heir to the throne. Aurelia has been touched by the void and has made it a philosophy not held by anyone else so far as I'm aware in your world. Slave is of a species not even native to your world, and of the same species that has just caused a great deal of harm to your world, although I don't believe you're aware of it yet.
Well, shit, maybe this is the sage. We just talk to her. Fuck.
What do you mean that my people have caused great harm?
I am not sure what you know of your people since you're from a different lineage than many of them. But an ancient seal was long ago said to have been placed on the assistant, the duke, the lieutenant, I don't know which term you would want to use, of the Fire Lord Ifrix. And that seal has been broken. And thus broken, the lieutenant is now free to try to again dominate your world. The flames of Ifrit will burn in the deserts again. Of
That
course, they couldn't
explains
have
this
done that.
explosion.
could not have done that if if the original pharaoh had not been reborn into the world. A condition thought impossible, I believe, by the wizard that imprisoned this lieutenant. And she stares at T-Hole. But it seems the impossible happens sometimes.
We seem to be good at impossible.
Which wizard imprisoned?
Neniac Nadom, the ancient archmage of the south.
We saw
Older
his
than-
messenger.
Older than me, even.
You know, so we ran across one of his messengers.
He hides himself from my vision. It's interesting to know that he's still alive if his messengers are still active in the world.
What would
So
you
you,
do?
sorry, go ahead.
What would you do if you interacted with him or had the chance to?
Oh, I enjoy seeing the way your kind run your affairs. I wouldn't interact with him directly. I would watch him from here, from my own domain. If I had some reason to interact with him, I could. I can move freely between your domain and mine. But it would mostly just be entertaining to watch him. He denies me that, of course. He has enough power to at least hide himself from my sight.
Can your children also move at will through the domains?
I don't know that I have any children. I have servants that can move freely between domains if I wish them to. And there are countless creatures in your world that I have total control over if I wish to exert it. But I see no reason why I would send them to interact with Neniac Nadom.
Wait, you said that the Pharaoh is what broke the seal. What does it have to do with my people?
The seal could only be broken once the Pharaoh was reborn. This condition was placed on the seal itself. Your people have been living in proximity to it, desecrating the site in which the lieutenant had been imprisoned for a very long time. Why they choose to live there, I don't know, as it's a rather inhospitable pocket domain, sort of akin to this one, although I think you'll find if you were to ever visit it that this one is more pleasant than that. With the Pharaoh reborn, their desecration was enough to break the seal, releasing the fury of the Fire Lord's lieutenant.
And
We're gonna have to deal with that for sure.
then that means that my people who are living in the area, they're likely fighting for their lives right now. They have not already lost them.
I
Just
don't
when it
yet
seems like things
see
can't get worse.
I don't yet see what their fate are. They are considered, if it matters to you, to be outcasts by your people. They are what do you know of the structure of your southern brethren?
Not much. I've only just begun learning about my people.
Well,
It's-
ages ago, before my time, there was one group of your people. They since began to fracture along the lines of different belief systems they developed after moving into this world. One set of your people began the worship of the ancient deity known as Thorisden. They chased many of your people away from a colony that was established by Neniac Nadon, a pocket domain that protected your kind from the other mortals of the material world. It is those outcasts that chased your people from their colony that have set the Pasha of Ifrix free, because your colony was where Neniac Nadom imprisoned the Pasha of Ifrix, trusting that your people would be there to defend the seals should anyone attempt to break them by force, and trusting in the impossibility of the resurrection of the original pharaoh.
Damn it, T-hole.
It's not T-Hole's fault he died and got reincarnated.
He didn't have to come back as that.
He didn't. The dice did.
The void did.
If I've returned in this body, it is because it is meant to be.
Meant to be a pain in our ass.
But it seems you do not have time. If the Pasha is free and he does the will of Ifrix, I have no doubt great harm will come to the people of the desert. What do you offer me in return for my favor?
In return for your favor?
You wish to leave my domain. None may do so without my favor.
I see.
How about your little dragon? The one flitting invisibly at the edge of my perception. Might she remain and become my companion?
Darius is just speaking and
You're muted.
it's not like we can hear him.
I say she is her own dragon. She may make this choice of her own free will.
And Zarius, you hear in your head the draconic for hell no. I've got to get back to save our patron.
So I nod and say, she does not wish for this. Something else must be chosen instead. Did you? I don't know if you saw my message. I would have done that.
Oh, I
My
did not.
eyes of the grave during this conversation, just to see if there's any, undead within 60 feet.
So I would say I draw a distinction between undead and just the dead. You're in a different world now where this is essentially where spirits originally passed to before they wind up being judged.
Mhm.
So you sense, you don't see them, but you do sense all sorts of spirits around you. Possibly many thousands of them, all sort of on the edge of being visible, almost just shifted a little bit out of phase from whatever this little pocket dimension is. But they seem like they're everywhere. But you also sense that they're not undead and they're not unclean. This is just, this is almost just their natural environment.
Okay.
You also sense it's not just like humans. There are many animals and other spirits here as well.
Okay. And then the same being true for the old queen here and her scorpion pals.
Yeah, none of them are undead.
Okay.
I mean, this particular feature, you don't really sense anything at all about them because they appear to just be living creatures.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Kepri doesn't want to stay, so I'm not gonna make her.
I will offer you this then, since you don't seem to have ideas of your own. Allow me to take from each of you half of your remaining lives, and I will let you pass and show you to the gateway from my world.
Half of our remaining lives. Great. So we're here to try and find a cure for the illness that is going to kill us in another year,
Quickly.
if we're lucky. And now, in order to do so, we have to give up half our lives.
Half your remaining lives. If we die in the next, supposed to die in the next 30 minutes, perhaps we will die sooner.
Yeah, but then, but
I don't know how. I don't know how this is supposed to work out. What is the logistics of this? I am old. I am not long for this world very much longer anyway. Most likely. Natural lives or
Yes, it's natural lives.
mm,
If you are fated to die in the next 30 minutes, perhaps the enemy that would attack you will meet you in 15. If you're fated to die of old age in your sleep, that would be quite a long way away for your changeling friend. And admittedly, in that case, I get a very good bargain. You are free to offer something else. I could do much with your urn, T-hole.
What would you do with it?
That would be my business if you were to give it to me. I could very easily have accepted your offer of a favor, of course, and then had the favor be give me your urn.
Well, you are quite a gracious queen to give
You
us
will
the choice.
You will find that I am not inherently deceptive or evil, but I don't think you would consider me to be good by your ethical systems either. I have my own purposes.
why don't you give her your urn, T-hole?
Do you know of the significance of this urn?
I believe I do. I think with your rebirth, it's lost some of its power, but there's a residual energy to it that I could use in other ways.
If you have the urn, does it bind me to you or tether us somehow?
No, although depending on what my experiments with the urn show, I don't know if that would interfere with your life at all. It may. You were once deeply tied to the urn. If I unleash its residual magic, well, I don't know what that would do to you. Then again, it is also the last untainted source of the Derikal virus. you may be wary of giving that away, as if the wrong person were to break the urn in the wrong place, a plague of undeath could be unleashed upon your world.
What is what is this Dericol virus?
You would actually know this. There is a virus that can infect dead bodies that causes them to rise as ghouls, and that the ghouls can then spread by bites and scratches.
Gotcha.
So you have actually fought a few Dericol ghouls.
Gotcha. Yeah, we did up in the prison or near the prison.
But it was a big, well, it was a problem for some people and an opportunity for Thult that they could spread this around to weaken their enemies back when Thult was busily trying to capture governments around the world. And apparently you stored a sample of it in your urn. which you never opened. I was so hoping you would open the urn, because you could have inadvertently released a plague.
Where we would have been hit first.
And then the two plagues would have canceled themselves out and we'd be good.
Right.
Yes, that's how that works.
Yep.
Almost. I mean, if you're undead, the plague doesn't, it can't kill you. Because you're already dead. We established they did that. They just became liches, some of these people,
Mhm.
so that they wouldn't just die.
The only downside would be that, constant lust for human flesh.
Manageable.
Why not give it to her then, T-hole? Seems like a good deal.
You would know that it has stopped beating.
I suspected that it had. I could hear the heartbeat stop when your new form emerged. As I said, there was still a great deal of power once poured into the vessel. I believe some of it could be reawakened and repurposed.
And you aren't going to open this jar yourself.
I can't predict what I'll do with it in the future. That's not my current plan.
Fair enough.
Army of ghoul scorpions.
Yeah.
Again, I'm willing to entertain other offers.
I don't know what else I would have myself.
I don't
You-
know anything. I don't have
Do you-
anything that would interest her.
Do you have any mortal enemies?
I
Do you
am
need
one
us
of,
off someone?
yeah,
We're pretty good at that. We can kill things.
Do you
Real
need us
good.
to annex some more property for you? Do you need like an intern, maybe for a couple hundred years?
I have been asking for one of you to remain as a companion.
Can
That
we-
sounds like a long, long time. We saw the other companion that you had. He looked in rough shape.
Well, he passed away many years ago.
And
His
he's still
soul
left.
lingers unnaturally here,
Oh,
as I haven't allowed him to pass on to be judged yet.
oh, okay.
I'll release him in time before his degradation threatens his immortal existence. But he is my best companion at the moment, which is why I seek another.
And when would this start? Like, when,
Start immediately.
Can we finish our other business first?
Again, I fear that you might not return, and then I would have to chase you. And that would not be enjoyable for me.
yeah, we're kind of used to that.
But you would have a way, you do have a way to at least keep tabs through creatures or.
I do, but I honestly have you at a disadvantage now, because if you were to slay me here, you might be successful with all four of you. But you would then be trapped in my pocket dimension forever. You need me to let you out.
We weren't, why would we do that?
Well, whereas if I let you go and am forced to chase you, you might slay me on the material plane, which would be essentially a permanent death for me. Here, I'm immortal. I can live forever if I wish to remain here. There, I can be easily slain. Here,
Yeah.
even if you slayed me, I could reform in at least given enough time. Your bones would be rotten in the sands of this place before I could assume that new form. But I would at least have died knowing that you were trapping yourselves, which would be somewhat of a comfort. Yeah, that is, if we were to come to blows.
I don't,
Wish
yeah,
you-
I don't think we should be doing that.
I think we're getting off track if we're talking of violence.
We have no quarrel with you.
We just didn't realize that we would have to come up with something else to get somebody. We were worried about the other, so this was kind of not on our list of things to acquire.
To prepare
So-
for.
Yeah,
Do you have any enemies that we could dispose of?
Enemies is the wrong term. There are people who are hostile to my kind, to the scorpions of the world, but they're not enemies. It's part of the natural order that living things kill other living things. The animal lords do not acquire enemies easily. As I suspect she knows, and she looks at Aurelia.
Teal furrows
Posh.
his eyebrows.
Posht has been seeking you, Aurelia. He has not called for you loudly, but he has been calling for you for some time.
yeah. Who are you talking about?
The cat lord.
Oh, right.
What other objects of interest do you have to offer if you will not part with the urn?
We have
Uh,
anything that you want?
I've
Is there
seen
something in the material plane that we can collect? I mean, we're on a list to
Mhm.
do many things, and we can just add it to it.
I have my wand of fireball and my red cowl of the Arcanist, but
I have
those seem
this.
to be paltry in comparison to the urn.
And I would
I
not
have
want to
something
deprive
that's not.
something as useful as those items. I realize you have much to accomplish.
I have the manual of flesh golems.
I have an eye stalk and a piece of the central eye of a demi beholder, if those would be of interest, and also a somewhat desiccated
Yeah,
fragment
tell us
of
about
red
yourself. Like,
dragon's
what
eye.
hobbies do you have? I mean, like, that would really help. I mean, are you into crafts, or do puzzles, or like, what do you like to do in your downtime? Your immortal downtime.
I absorb knowledge from all corners of reality.
Okay, there we go. That's a start.
I like quiet walks along the oasis.
Right.
Okay, all right.
I enjoy playing fetch with my pet scorpions.
Okay.
They never return the stick. Because
Oh,
they're
they
scorpions.
They return the stick to me because I'm the queen of scorpion.
You say the animal lords do not brook or make enemies easily, but surely you have predators.
As I said, a predator is not an enemy. It's just part of the natural order. Plus, there are not that many predators of scorpions and none of the scorpion queen.
Not that many, but there are wasps.
I
I mean,
I-
yeah. How does she feel about the golem manual?
She didn't comment on it, so it seems as if she's not that interested in it.
Okay, Zarius, check if it's a first edition. Is it signed by the author?
So at this point, she just laughs and says, well, it seems as if there's very little that you have and are willing to offer. So I will make you my most generous offer. Have a meal with me and stay here for one night and entertain me with tales of your world. You must know some that I have not bothered to learn. And I will open the doorway to lead you onto the next leg of your journey. And with a wave of her hand, you see fruits and pitchers of wine begin to appear on low tables all around this circular area of the ruins.
T-Hole looks perplexed. And he says, what is the catch? Are you
Yeah,
suggesting that
Let's not look a gift horse in the mouth.
Aurelia starts strumming the first chords to Hotel California.
So-
Um,
Zarius looks just slightly annoyed because he's not a storyteller and he fucking hates telling a story.
To answer your question, there is no catch, Teal. I will get one night's amusement. You will then be on your way.
He's pretty
I-
much been straight
It's a night in
shooting
the
with us the
astral
whole
plane.
time, so.
I am just surprised that it is all that one night's worth of entertainment and stories is worth a powerful magical artifact.
They're certainly not equivalent in value, but I did not command you to come here and have no desire to force you to stay against your will. I suppose I could attack and kill you all, but that could damage me. As I said, there's a chance you could kill me in a fight, even though it would mean your ultimate doom. I simply have no desire to engage in acts of force in that way. And I will have further amusement watching you as you go about your journeys. I am curious to see why Pasht is so interested in Aurelia.
Is
It
there
will be-
something, sorry,
I was going to say, you will be coming upon his primary altar, or the altar the people used to use, as that has been forgotten long ago and partially transferred into this spirit world in which my domain sits. You may
So-
meet him there if you meditate upon the statue.
Yeah, that just might cause more complications.
Who is this Pashat? Like,
Pasht
Lord.
is the cat lord. Once Pasht is the name that was given to him in ancient Thult and various other religions of the South. Is also known sometimes as Rex Felis, name of imperial origin, I believe. But he was worshipped under that name too for a time.
King Cat.
what traits does the Cat Lord espouse? What does he represent?
He is a difficult one to read. He is fickle and often prone to changing his objectives from time to time, or perhaps he simply never reveals his true objectives. He is
I thought it was just
generally
me.
generally pleasant enough, handsome young man is the normal form he takes when he chooses to appear as a human. He doesn't so much get along with me, but I wouldn't say he's a rival or an enemy. We're just different by nature. I am straightforward. He is very much not straightforward.
Yeah, he's kind of a pain in the ass.
Have you spoken with Pasht?
Not in a very long time.
Teal was addressing Aurelia.
No. When I needed him most, he didn't show up, so fuck him.
Well, let's get to eating and entertaining.
I warn you now, I am not a good storyteller.
Oh, Zarius. He's being modest.
I am not.
Just,
Oh, he is.
just tell her about the time that you tell her how you got your bum knee.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a great story.
And you
I've
still
always
became an
enjoyed it.
adventurer.
Don't worry, I got this for Zarius. And Clave begins weaving some illusions to recreate the scene of the Lilium Enchantress, and goes on to tell the story of the battle and how they won but had lost many, and Clave uses his abilities to transform into Zarius and act out his part of it, how he was so willing to throw away the lives of others and not use his powers to save them, though he could, and how he justified himself. And
And then after that, and
and
then I'm
then
like,
go on,
Whatever.
and
Now,
he would go
I'm
on
just,
to
I'm just curious, are you telling this accurately or like in a way where Cyrus would be like, that is not what happened?
the second one. But you know, I am the artist and I have creative control. And he is not good at storytelling, so what's he gonna do? Tell his side?
dispel magic.
And recast.
Fine, we're gonna stay here all night. I'll cast it every
Yeah.
fucking time. Dispel magic.
Eventually these two come to blows. PvP is the new entertainment.
But but I make sure that I include a couple of asides. And I start out in my asides as Wrexham, who, for those of you that had forgotten, was a red dragonborn that had accompanied us. And he says, and addressing Zarius, I was one of your kin. I lost my life, ripped apart by sharks. You had the power to find my body and resurrect me. At the very least, you could have given me a proper burial. No. Instead, you chose to preserve the body of your assassin. And you carried you with him as if he was precious. Why was I not worth getting my burial rights? And then Clave transforms into a blonde human with dark eyes and says, I was Frederick. You guys probably don't remember one of the sailors that had accompanied you. I was working for Captain Pamilio. Of course, none of you talked to me, none except Axius, Clave, as you know him now, because he did genuinely care about us, and he got to know each of us. He got to know that my wife was pregnant with our first child, and how badly it tore me apart to have to leave her. And why was it okay for me to die? Why wasn't it worth using a fragment of your power to give my daughter a future with her father? What gives you a right to decide to leave my family destitute? And then Clave transforms into Zarius. And in a very exaggerated Zarius voice, because I am nothing but an impetuous child. I don't have to exercise caution unless I want to. I don't have to use my blessings for the betterment of people, especially my own people. I don't have to answer to anyone but myself. The world is full of my toys, and I can break them if I please. I claim that I will abdicate the crown of Zerahemi. But once I get a taste of that power, surely it'll be just too intoxicating. The thrill of getting to choose who lives and dies, that's nothing compared to what I can do with the crown. And then he transforms into Axius. But not the Axius that you know, or as you saw him last. Instead, this Axius, he wears a web of scars across his face, and his eyes are red, but not from the glass grass. And they're encircled with deep dark. There's deep dark circles. The light in his eyes, the joy that he once gushed for life, now hardened into cold steel. And looking directly at Zarius, as well as the others, I don't believe in you anymore. I don't believe in what the Colossus and the Dead Fools once stood for. Maybe it was always a lie. Or maybe you corrupted it. And he looks directly at Zarius. But I don't care. You have taught me that the strong get to make the rules. And I am very strong. But unlike you, I also know I can die. And even if I survive, others may suffer. So I will do what I believe is best. And once I am cured, should I get so lucky, I will decide if the world will be a better place by me staying with this group or going off on my own. And I don't like it. Or I don't care if you like it. You can kill me or you can fuck off because I'm done with you. And Clave bows and goes to eat.
And she applauds and laughs at that, and then looks at the rest of you and says, that was a very strong start. I wonder when each of you tells your stories if you'll be able to top that.
No, we won't.
Yes, and she makes it very clear she expects each of you to give her one story in exchange for passage. Unless only some of you want to leave, that's fine too.
Sounded like Clay
But-
was gonna stay.
Well, let's take a 5-minute break.
Sounds good.
I
In my
just sent you a
emails?
message. I did not see an email, but I just sent you a whisper.
Okay. Hmm, neat. Yeah, sorry about that, Tony. I had that one in the chamber.
Now I'm waiting to hear Zarius's. I'm Clave and I'm a big stupid head.
Thought I was the last one.
And Peter may also be dealing with his dogs. I could hear, like, as Mike was telling his story, I was like, yeah, that is definitely my dog coughing something up.
Oh, no.
I should go see what's going on with them.
Are they okay?
Yeah. I mean, dogs sometimes vomit. Just happens.
Yeah.
So he seemed perfectly fine when I went in there, just that he threw up a bit. So she looks at Clave for a second, still appreciating his story, and then looks back at the three of you who haven't gone yet and said, well, you all have to tell a tale. Which one is next?
Darius is gonna choose to stay rather than have to tell a story.
Well, there's always
Can't
that
hear you.
time.
Yeah, no. Nah, I was just Zarius is just like sitting there looking at Clave, just like a little annoyed at him. But he's not saying anything yet. Like, is this motherfucker really still on about this shit? Fucking come on.
Yeah. About those little people who don't matter.
The well, there's always the story of uh what was the name of the society? I don't have it offhand. That like
Midnight Society?
that Temple One was a part of, like that
Oh, the Iterans
Iterans,
Yeah, the
Itarans.
Atarans.
or
Yeah.
Itarans?
Well, there was the time that we took unto ourselves a deadly plague, the one that wiped out the Atarans, that we still carry with us today. You see, we scaled this mountainside not too far out of the city of Lucianum. I'm sure you've seen it in your visions or your eyes into the material world. We went we scaled the mountainside, went through the top, and there we encountered a construct, some automaton who's been around for, been deactivated for quite a long time. I don't remember how many years he was deactivated or he was up there. But it was in the thousands. And he asked for us to power up to power up the teleportation circles that were sitting at the top of the mountains, the ones that the Atarans used to use to get around far and wide throughout the lands. And after contending with an extreme heat near the base of the mountain, and we stumbled upon a room with a demi-lich. And after after a pitched battle, to which multi-round battle, we were able to down it thanks to Zarius. However, the door we unlocked released a deadly plague. And here we are. And here we are at your doorstep trying to figure out how to stay alive for just a little bit longer.
So I assume you don't recount the part where you went in and got beaten up by the demi-lich and then had to flee.
Yeah, he's not, you know, she thinks that right now we could take her, and he's not gonna let her know that some punk ass demi-lich just like got the best of us.
Never got the best of me.
Yeah. So like that was the multi rounds. Yeah. It was really more like multiple fights, but he's saying it's multiple rounds.
And you're skipping, I assume, the red dragon.
He would tell that too. It's just been a while, but yeah, he talks about here. He'll mention how the after the plague, we found a red dragon who was feasting off of, what was it eating?
A glass of Everfull cows.
Right.
Yeah. It was eating was it like an endless supply of cows?
Right. It's a magical glass dome with like a handle on top. When you place it down every day, it spawns a random number of cows. So it would just come over, remove the cover, eat the cows, put the cover back down, wait till tomorrow.
We bested a dragon who has somehow stayed alive in this hot, humid region, cave, by feeding on magical cows, an unlimited number of them, through some device, probably from the Atarans who once inhabited this mountain.
So she listens to your story. She does, have questions here and there about how you fought the dragon and how that went. How the teleportation circles work. She doesn't seem from her questions like she was looking in on you at that point, or even that she knows very much about Lucianum or that particular mountain. So you're not sure. It doesn't seem as if she's omniscient or all-seeing, as she somehow missed all of this. But she's very interested also in Temple One, what sort of automaton he is, what happened to him. What do you tell her about what happened to him?
He would tell her, well, after we powered what this construct is asking, it turned on us and attempted to kill us. And so, of course, we couldn't allow such things. And well, we're standing here and they aren't standing there. So you can guess how that went.
I don't think we ever actually like started the thing, right?
Right, you
We
didn't
turn
actually
we
power it
didn't
up.
turn the teleport on because we
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
want to infect everything.
That's true.
He didn't like that. He attacked us.
Right,
beat
he
him.
wanted you to go back and turn that thing on. His whole plan for world domination turned on you turning on the power source. The one thing you didn't do.
He attacked us. We defended ourselves. He ran. I remember that.
And Clave could have killed him, but for some reason decided he wanted to fly over to him and watch him die. So
Then you destroyed his magic armor.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the player obviously has limited memory, but T-Hole would not. And he would tell those events.
He like dismantled it, right? The armor. It
Right.
dismantled his power
It's-
armor.
well, we also destroyed it to the extent that it's non-functional anymore, even as a suit of armor.
Right.
Hmm.
And then I think you scattered you as you flew around.
Yep. Got to be thorough with unknown Magitech.
So she again applauds at the end of that story. And then who's next? Zarius, why don't you go?
I feel like he would be unsure of what story to tell. And then I feel like perhaps he would recount some of the goings on from Mordenkainen's manor. Some of the bits that he recalls. Having two other companions when we went in there, them both leaving. And us finding Aurelia hiding in a mirror, all that jazz. The crazy fight at the end where the horn was blown and a ton of spirit warriors came out and fought with us.
Yeah. Oh, would you tell her about the deck of many things that we pulled at the kitchen table? Or the dining room table?
Yeah, probably.
So that especially interests her. So she starts asking about what everyone pulled. And you realize in telling your story, she doesn't seem to know who Lucirosi is, but she's very interested in him. So she asks a lot of questions about him.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, given your passive insight, you would say she doesn't know who he is, but she seems sort of especially unusually interested in him. Like maybe she's heard of him, but doesn't really know that much about him. She has some particular interest in stories of him. But she's also interested in what you each drew from the deck, as she's well aware of how that deck works. Do you happen to know if that was the actual deck of fate? As it sounds like it may have been.
I don't know what it was.
I
don't know. I don't know much about Mordenkainen. I know he's famous as wizards go.
He's ungrateful.
So perhaps
what he is.
what makes you say he's ungrateful? I assume you knew him in one of your prior incarnations.
I was once his master, or at least his teacher.
When was this? I think he was also before my time, though. Maybe there was some overlap.
This was early on in the Empire. Not of Tholt, but of the current incarnation.
As I understand it, that would be before my time too, then. In what way were you his master? He answered directly to you? I thought he was, by some measures, the most powerful archmage in the world.
I founded the Circle of Eight. And he was a part of that. And for a time we worked together.
And how did he betray you?
I don't remember. All I know is whenever I think of Mordenkainen, there's a little bile in my mouth.
So she also asked, like, what happened to the scroll, the deed to Mordenkainen's manor? And then where's Daggerface today? Although you don't really know where Daggerface is right now today.
Did she ask about the effect that T-hole drew? And asked to have it demonstrated?
That is true. She would be curious to see whether or not your reincarnation would have thwarted the will of the Deck of Fate. I mean, the Deck of Fate itself was said to have been created by Moraine, the god of nature, and by some accounts of fate itself. So could you have sidestepped it by being reincarnated into a new form? I have to ask you, just you don't hear anything.
Well, there you go. Either that or it does not reach this place.
She seems a little disappointed, and she says, it might not be audible if I did not wish it to be in this place, but it seems as if your new form as perhaps did not allow the magic to pass with it. Or perhaps it's because you're in a body that is older than the curse the deck placed upon you. Seems as if my brother or cousin, so to speak, had his hands in what happened to you, Aurelia, if you were transformed into a partially feline person. That could not be coincidence.
I guess not. It was all a cruel joke.
It seems as if he was possibly trying to give you a boon of sorts. But if you did not enjoy your new form, then he should not have foisted it upon you without consent. But now it is your turn to tell your tale.
So many tales to tell. I mean, I could tell you of the time that I befriended a chicken in the town to search for a very manipulative, murdering doppelganger. But that's kind of a boring story.
T-hole's like,
Well.
oh, I love that story.
That's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of. I could tell you that, tell you the story about how Mordenkainen and has the wand of ED and that everybody thinks that we have the wand of ED, but we don't.
And what is this wand?
Of ED?
Yes.
Oh, Eternity's Doorstep. I'm surprised you didn't ask us if we had it, because everybody else seems to ask us.
I am aware of the item you speak of.
Oh, okay. And you know we don't have it.
I was not aware. I'm not aware of where it is, but I assume that if you had it, that would have been rather obvious.
Yeah, I know.
It's an item of extraordinary power.
Yeah, but nobody else can seem to figure it out. They think that we have it.
My guess is that very few understand just how powerful it is.
So, yeah, I will go into the story about the Wand of Eternity's Doorstep and that Mordenkainen was pretending to be Rary the Traitor, and Robilar had a pact with two liches, Paradonna and Vecna, and that Robilar almost killed Mordenkainen, and that Robilar gave the wand of ED to Vecna, and Vecna shattered it, absorbing all the power.
I don't understand. This could not be possible.
Oh, no. Yeah, we that all got reversed. Don't worry about it. We fixed it. That's what's supposed to happen.
Did you happen to mention how apparently Robilar is Lucia Rossi?
Yeah, she seems very interested in Robilar. What is Robilar's relationship with Mordenkainen?
Let me check my notes. They don't like each other?
He said he betrayed him, although that got reversed. Did the betrayal get reversed?
Oh, I don't know. So what are your thoughts on Vecna?
Vecna is power mad, and more likely than he realizes to result in some catastrophic doom for the world. Though, I suppose, more likely than I realized if he could absorb the power of the Wand of Eternity's Doorstep. I don't know what he would do with that amount of power. Though I'm very curious simply because I know of Robilar much more than I know of Lucia Rossi. And there is very clearly a relationship between the two. Robilar, however, is immensely old. He's been around for many centuries. How old is Lucia Rossi? When was he born?
I don't know.
He I mean,
I-
did Lucia Rossi ever tell? I don't remember if Lucia Rossi like told us like about how he awoke from the stone or the doors of stone.
So, Lucia Rossi, it was pretty well known that he started out
as a petrified statue in one of the
Oh, that's right.
4 churches. And one day he was just randomly unpetrified.
Gotcha.
And from there he took up the mission of the 4 churches, since one of the first people that he met was Cato.
Gotcha. We're not sure. We're never sure how old he is, but he could be quite old. He said he was a statue once.
Yeah, he was kind of stiff. I would say you could call him here. He'd probably stay. He'd probably be willing to stay behind. Then again, he'd probably just straight up fight there. That wouldn't be good either.
Yeah. So in describing, like she asks about what Lush Rosi looks like, in describing him, she says, well, that doesn't sound like Robilar, though they are both cat-headed Aasimar, lion-headed Aasimar, in fact. Robilar's very old. His fur has turned almost entirely white. He's also incredibly portly and out of shape, although that doesn't stop him from being a very effective combatant. He is one of the most skilled fighters probably anywhere. Certainly the most skilled melee combatant that I'm aware of. In terms of finesse, in terms of raw power, there are certainly creatures physically stronger than him. But his skill is legendary. There is a rumor that he had a son, but I don't know much about it or what happened to the son. I think there was some falling out and some betrayal, something of that sort. I'm wondering if that might not be referencing Lush Rosi, though I don't know anything about being turned to stone or a statue. I believe it happened up north. I don't know as much about what's occurred up north, especially not things that occurred before my time.
What is your time? How old are you?
Not supposed to ask a woman her age.
She's not a woman. She's a scorpion queen.
You can see she is, a little offended, being told she's not a woman.
I just looked at her and said, I tried,
She'll show you.
Let's just say that I was mortal about 400 years ago, before eventually becoming the Queen of Scorpions.
How does one become the queen of one of the animal gods? Or how does one ascend to an animal god?
In order to become one of the primal forces of the world, you have to defeat the other primal forces, the one that held the seat before you. You also need to carry the boon of a true deity. I could tell you specifically how you might do it, but then I would not be allowed to let you leave here.
I was more so curious. I'm generally unfamiliar with the laws of animal gods.
Well, some might say that we are animal gods, but you shouldn't believe that sort of talk. We are not true gods. We are simply imbued with a primal essence, an animalistic spirit that gives us certain power over animals that are similar to the ones whose power we carry. We are more primal essences, guardians of a certain kind of force of life. Even the Cat Lord, although he is by far the oldest of the animal spirits, was once mortal at some point in time. He may have been worshipped as a god. He may have even granted his followers spells, but he is not exactly a god, nor would he claim to be a god exactly. But I thank you all for your stories. Let us rest for the night, and then in the morning, I will show you the way out.
May I ask one question?
You may ask as many as you like.
Do you know where Rary is? He was supposed to be last seen in the Bright Desert.
Rary was in the Bright Desert, although I know Rary by a different name, and what I know of him seems to be somewhat different than what you do, as you refer to him as Rary the Traitor. I know Rary under his other name, Neniak Nadom.
Speaking about him the whole time.
I think I got completely hosed with this whole animal god thing. I mean, I like scorpions. You're into black, I'm into black. I mean, it would be, oh man.
It would not have been as good though if you were reincarnated by the deck of fate as a scorpion-headed Aasimar. Little less aesthetically pleasing.
I mean, you'd have those mandibles, right?
Yeah, I mean, look at the Spider Queen. She's
Right, I mean,
gracious.
obviously, look, if you had rolled on the reincarnation table and gotten Thrycreen, which is 100% on that list, absolutely, that is the direction I would have gone.
Well, you've been a very gracious host. I thank you for your time and your honesty.
As far as I know, Robilar is still a servant of Neniak Nadom. And Neniak Nadom's domain exists as a pocket within this spirit realm, the same realm where my domain sits, though not this particular domain. It is possible that his being in this domain is part of the magic he uses to hide from my sight, although I don't think I'm a major concern of his. He may be more afraid of other people looking in on him. But Neniak Nadom has many, looking at Clave, many of your people who serve him directly. I believe most of his messengers are taken from your tribe. Or if not your tribe, your type of people.
That's my understanding as well.
Can you spell that Neniak Nadom? I'm not even going to attempt to spell it.
Oh, chat.
Unless you put it somewhere else and I missed it.
It was probably in the summaries.
I think I might ask her, and do you know of the Southern Sage?
I know much of the legends. I've never sought him out myself. I do wonder whether or not I could use my power to look upon him and not die, or go insane, or any of the other things that might happen to those who gaze upon him. But as I'm not sure of the answer, it's not really worth the test.
We're going to see him, you know. If we survive, we can come back here and tell you all about it.
Well, if you go to see him, I would still not look upon him. He will answer your questions, but I have never heard a story of anyone who has looked upon him and lived. Maybe you'll be the first. in which case I would absolutely be curious to hear what it is he truly looks like.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely come back.
What is it that you seek to ask him? I do know quite a lot of the goings on in the desert, though I don't claim to have his level of knowledge.
We seek the Forgotten City. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Dawat Pajar.
Duhat Bajar, yeah.
That also predates my time.
Supposedly there is a great panacea there.
I know a little of the legends. I know there were many temples there to all of the gods of the southern desert, including the ones of your people, as I understand it.
Yes.
But I don't
Yeah.
know where it was located. I've looked in from time to time on many treasure seekers who were hunting it, but none who found much of it or any real evidence suggesting where it would be located. Many ruins have been claimed to be Dawat Pajar, but so far as I could tell, none of them probably were.
Do you think there is anyone besides the sage who might know where this is?
I can honestly say I doubt any living soul other than Neniak Nadom would know where it was. He was, however, alive roughly contemporaneously with the city. Before its final downfall, at least. Since if he is Morden Canaan, he's been around for 1,500 years. The city vanished only 1,000 years ago.
That is a backup option.
So I think seeking Neniak Nadom would be as hard as seeking the Southern Sage. There were at least stories of how to get to the Southern Sage. Neniak Nadom clearly just hides for the sake of hiding.
It's probably for the best.
We've met his messenger. We could probably get a message to them, but still, I think the Southern Sage is the best bet because we're not just looking for a cure. We're also looking for a safe place to leave this staff.
Aye.
So, and she looks up at the sky, and the half of the sky that appears to still be dawn begins to darken, turns to twilight, and then night falls on the whole domain. And she dissolves away into sand and is carried off by a wind that picks up. And the night passes. In the morning, she reappears, and with a wave of her arm, you could see the space between you and her seems to almost contract in and flex, and then cracks appear, and a hole, it just hanging in the air like a crack in reality itself, opens up, and you can see the grayed out dunes of the desert again. If you travel straight through this portal, it should lead you to the second waypoint, which will be the statue of Pasht. The statue of Pasht is in the gateway to the next, to probably the greatest of the demi-planes that live in this void, the mountains of the Seer itself. Next to the statue of Pasht, you will see the path that will lead you to the Seer. I assume you are aware not to deviate from the path. The mountains of the Seer are very treacherous, and there are spirits that dwell there that probably would try to keep you in the mountains lost forever if they could. The path itself, though, is relatively safe, though you may come across primarily elementals that have, from time to time, periodically claimed dominion over parts of the trail. They can usually be bought off, although you are curiously unwilling to part with your things. You may want to think about what you might offer them, as I doubt they will let you go with simple conversation. None of them, I would say, are necessarily a challenge for you, but if you're to fight each and every one along the way, that might be somewhat more challenging.
That is good to know. Thank you for the forewarning.
Thank you, Your Highness, for your hospitality.
It's been a pleasure.
I wish you a safe journey. And if you see the sage, please do come back.
We'll make sure to return if we're able to. Or like if we get, but when we get back to the material world, can I start talking to, if I talk to a scorpion, will you hear the message?
It doesn't necessarily work that way. I would have to be focused on that scorpion in the first place.
What if we were to carry one with us?
I mean, that could work. I don't have any mundane scorpions you could take with you into the spirit world, however. So you would have to find one in the natural world.
Well, if we find one, we'll let you know. By talking to it.
Yes, I have speak with animals.
Hey, can you get a message back to the Scorpion Queen for me?
listen.
I just picture Aurelia picking up a scorpion, like, hello, Scorpion Queen.
Well,
Got another Aurelia and the chicken thing going on. But with the damn scorpion. Way more dangerous.
You see her, like, one side of her face is swole up from all the stings. She tries to cell phone a scorpion. So you step back out into the spirit realm, leaving this little demi-plane behind. Again, your body goes numb as you go through. Although that numbness never really left you the whole time you were in her realm, it still felt like you were in a dummy body or a borrowed form. But you are again inchoate and incorporeal as you set off again. And that's where we'll wrap up this session.
sounds good.
So I'm glad, Mike, you could make it.
Yeah.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, it was fun. I wasn't, I was just about to say, fine, take the urn, but then you're like, oh, or you could tell a story. I'm like, that works too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. Be able to.
Well, and now you're also aware of what happens if you open the urn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was discussed a little bit.
Yeah. Which is interesting because the beating heart was trapped with that. So it was survived, or was able to survive the ghoul plague.
I mean, for all you know, that's sort of part and parcel of the magic of why the heart managed to remain beating over thousands of years, unnaturally keeping your spirit alive and on this plane.
Yeah,
is it's like partially infected with the ghoul plague or completely infected with it.
makes sense.
Good thing it never accidentally broke open over all this journey.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
really need rules for that. Mike, get on that. I would like to see Mike's rules for like, oh, you took so much damage that all of your potion bottles are broken.
Well, he's getting that way with that one monster that sucks away your
Right,
healing
That's
potions or whatever
true.
it was.
Like
I
there used to be a monster called a disenchanter. I guess that would be like a super Mike monster.
Oh yeah.
You can
I
just
think I
have the
remember that.
disenchanter disenchanting all of our magic items. It was like an anteater that like it was basically like a rust monster for magic items, but it looked like an anteater. And it would just come up and like affix its nose to your magic armor and make it normal armor.
Well, that giant Zorn leader that you guys fought was trying to eat your magic items and digest them. And that could have made them disenchanted. So
Giant Zorn is, I think, that's better than giant anteater, or normal sized anteater rather.
Yeah.
So it was also good. There like a little bit of lore got out there. You were alerted to the fact that Neniac Nadom, in the least subtle foreshadowing ever, if you just reverse the order of the letters, I think you will see it was a not so subtle hint.
oh yeah. Okay.
One letter I omitted just to make it not super, super obvious. And I wanted to bring
Wow.
Robilar back into it. Robilar has not betrayed Mordenkainen in this timeline, so he was mentioned as a servant, the lion-headed servant of Neniac Nadom by the messenger.
Mhm.
So he still may come into play.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens there.
So Neniac the Dome is Rary,
Mordenkainen.
who's
Right.
Mordenkainen.
Right.
Okay. Well, it makes sense why he hates Rary. Or T-Hole hates Rary. He also had butted a lot of heads with Robilar. So that makes sense that T-Hole and Luciosi went at it all the time.
Yeah.
They've been doing it for thousands of years.
It's the dawn of time.
It's like the major theme that runs through my campaign is the party members fight a lot. Although, yeah, maybe my favorite part of this session was Mike's story about how Zarius just ripped off the lives of all those sailors.
So it's funny because I was like thinking about this session. I was like, there's going to be an opportunity where this comes up. So I actually wrote it all down.
Good thinking.
Hmm.
All right, I gotta go. I'll talk to you guys
All
later.
right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
All right,
Yeah.
take it easy.